Alright, cool. Well, let's get the awkward part out of the way first. There's face in this video. It's tough. I know. Alright, so what I'm gonna do, start a timer. Perfect. So today's demo is on turning eccentric bowls. I've already done a little bit of the pre-work. I've sort of rounded the corner stuff here. And in terms of what you're gonna need if you want to do this at home, you are going to need 2 chucks, typically. I like to use 2 chucks anyway. You can do this with 1 chuck, you'll just have to swap jaws in the middle. Not a huge fan of myself, so I prefer 2 chucks. 1 4-inch jaws, 1 with 2-inch jaws. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my dividers to the widest outside diameter, the widest possible outside diameter of the 4-inch jaws, and the closed inside diameter of the 2-inch jaws, and I'm going to set those aside. Now I have also already marked this blank with 2 spots on it. So one of these is absolute dead center, one of these is 3/4 of an inch off center. So because the big jaws are 4 inches and the small jaws that we're going to use are 2 inches, it means that we have a radius difference, right? So the radius of this is 2 inches, radius of this is 1 inch. We have a difference of 1 inch, which means that the distance between these 2 points has to be less than that. So I shoot for 3/4 because that's the next biggest line on my ruler. No other special reason than that. So I do need to start with my woodworm in this chuck. So I'm going to get it mounted up here. Turn my speed all the way down. Let's see here. I want that out a good long ways. How's everybody's Thursday going, huh? Alright, perfect. Yeah, so just in case it wasn't clear, I have this this demo on Saturday. Just trying to practice to see if I can do it with a bigger piece than I had planned initially. I was going to do it with a smaller piece, but it was looking a little bit stumpy. It doesn't leave me a lot of room on the outside. So, yeah, I was going to skip that if I can. So, I need to drill 2 holes in this thing. 3/8 drill bit. That should be about fine. And then the second hole, 3/4 of an inch away from the first one. Perfect, that should be plenty. Okie doke, so starting threading through the center hole. We're not going to touch that other one until a little bit later. Alright, let me get myself set up for safety over here. I suppose we can use some tailstock support, right? Because we're smart and safe turners. Okay, that looks pretty good. Already looking nice. Okay. So the reason that I like to spin the piece slowly before I bring up the live center there is because, especially if you get a really heavy piece, like a sort of big wet piece, it can actually start to bend a little bit. There may be a little bit of flex or drop in your spindle, or maybe your woodworm isn't perfectly cinched into your chuck, and so it can sort of dip off to the side. So if it's leaning like this and then you put your live center in, you're just going to cause trouble for yourself because it's not going to be centered up anyway. Hello, thank you, Lori. This is going to be about wood turning, alright? This is not going to be a lot about me. So if you're expecting the Brad show, prepare to be disappointed. I'm on a timer. So I'm just going to touch up my gouge really fast. I don't think this will wind up being part of the demo later on, but you never know. Also, sorry, my shop is in total disarray right now. I had an order for some bandsaw blades. I knew the new ones were coming in, and I wanted to really use my old ones, so I sawed up probably 10 or 12 different logs for a couple hundred extra blanks, and yeah, boy, it got really messy in here really quickly. All right, so basic roughing on the outside, same as you would any other bowl. We're just looking to get it concentric. Okay. So that's a pretty nice surface, wouldn't you say? Pretty good cut there. Okay. So now I'm gonna slow this down a bit. I'm gonna back the tailstock off because the rest of the work is gonna be on the bottom, pretty much. I don't know where to put this gouge. Okay. So swivel you over here a little bit so you can see. How's that for a camera angle? Thankfully, I won't have to do this during the demo. But what you may be able to see here is the clock. Okay. So next, I just want to face off the bottom here, get it nice and flat. Nice full cuts. Nothing too complicated. I'm not even a little bit worried about surface finish here because all of this is going to get turned away. So I'm just using the most expedient cuts. I may leave a little bit of this room, which is why I did the push cut on the outside there. So next order of business is I need to set the diameter of the outside of those 4-inch jaws. So turn the speed way down. Remember, as you're doing this, only want to touch the side of the dividers that is coming down towards you. That is the near side of the lathe. Oh, and if you get it right, then you can trick people into thinking you know what you're doing. Okay, so I do have a parting tool somewhere. There we go. I do have this big Carter & Son parting tool, which I typically like a lot. But for this operation, I use the super thin parting tool just because I find it gives me a little bit more control. And because I'm dealing with the absolute outside diameter here of what my jaws are capable of, I'm going to shade towards the inside a little bit. So let me see if I can make this line a little bit more apparent for everybody. So that's where the line is, right? That's the widest that my 4-inch jaws can actually get. So I'm going to start just a hair inside here, just a little bit. That's why I gave myself a 3/4 inch hole offset on the front, is because now I have a little bit of extra room to play around with here. So let's get you all centered up. Beautiful. This is not a smart cut with a parting tool, but it is an effective one. Just going straight in. Okay, and the reason that I'm doing this way is because I want to leave all this material because this will eventually become the tenon for the small jaws over there. Sorry. Okay. Sure. So I'm going to do a quick sanity check right here, see if this fits the jaws already. Now, I would love to have a third chuck that has big jaws already on it as well. So let's see. Oh, it's close. It's close. Okay, maybe another parting tool width, and then we'll be good to go. And I'm actually going to make this recess reasonably deep because I want to be able to grab the tenon and take the entire bowl off axis by the time I'm done as well. So we sort of get double action off axis here. Here we go. Perfect. I think it's about time for my yearly wax on my lathe bit, huh? All right, here we go. Cool, and then we'll do one more really quick sanity check here, just to make sure we have this in order before we move on to the next step. So. Perfect, and I can get a grip on the outside, so that's good. So we don't want to touch that spacing anymore. I'm not going to touch the outside edge at all anymore. But now what we get to do is start thinking about how we actually want this bowl to look. So a couple of artistic decisions. I'm not going to go too crazy here because I am on a little bit of a time budget. Just for everybody knowing, if you're watching the clock, trying to get the whole demo done in about an hour. That's what I'm holding myself to here. So, see? That's it. Anybody else feel like they never have enough spots around their lathe to put stuff? Like anything around me becomes a table, but I need the whole shop to be tables. You know, all my tools where I can see them at every moment. Okay, so now I get to set the outside of this foot right here. I'm probably going to do an enclosed foot, like a rim of some kind right here, just a little bit. I'm not going to go as deep as the tenon because that way, or as deep as the mortise, because that way when I expand these jaws, I get the entire outside of the bowl supporting me, which is really nice. So probably a shallow foot starting about here and then just shaping the outside of the bowl. Try to do this pretty quickly, there won't be much chatter. Remember to turn off your lathe when you adjust the tool rest. We all do that all the time, right? do your really best. Nice. That ought to just about do it. Actually, it's a pretty good finish there. I don't think I'm allowed to sand during my demo, so I'm just not going to sand. But yeah, overall, quite happy with that finish. Chatoyancy, plainly visible. I think that's all right. I'm going to touch up the inside here just a little bit, since this will be my last chance to smooth this out under power, I think. And, you know, just rolling a little bead in there. Okay. Like I said, no sanding allowed. Okay, so the next move is where things get a little bit more fun. So, just bored out that center hole. I now have the back of this finished. It's in reasonable shape. What we're gonna do is switch over to the off-center hole here. This is where things get pretty exciting. The rule here is keep your hands behind the tool rest. Even if this thing doesn't trap your finger in between the bowl and the tool rest, if it whacks it going around, there's still enough mass in it that it's not going to feel great. The guy who's broken a number of fingers, not doing this, just, you know, sports and stuff like that. It's not that much fun. You don't want to do it. So keep the chicken tendies out of the basket. All right. So I'll take a second to see what this looks like. That's a lot of mass moving off center, huh? But that is indeed the fun of it. So, my other set of dividers. Okay. So this is the set of dividers that I preset to the inside diameter of my smallest set of jaws. So that's what I'm going to use to inscribe here. I love it when I get that right on the first try. Okey doke. And then parting tool as well. And so for the last operation, you can see here where I've inscribed, right? So I'm just kind of taking a bite out of this mass that's in the middle of this tenon. Let me see if I can bring in here. So this circle right here is going to wind up being our tenon that I'm going to use to grip this thing when we flip it over, so we carve sort of an odd bowl on the other side. So let's get you all back a nice safe distance while I do silly stuff. There we go. I'm starting on the outside of this because I want to be able to grab this tenon. if you're doing this for yourself and you're thinking, that doesn't feel like a super secure cut, that's because your spidey senses are working properly. This is not what this is made for. The parting tool is definitely made to go into spindle blanks. That's what it's intended for. Using it on face grain like this is definitely a little bit on the dicey side, but again, it does work, and we just have to do some funky things to get the effects that we're looking for here. So I have a little bit of a height difference between where I've removed the wood for the tenon and where I've removed it for the mortise back here. So I'm going to try to get these a little bit closer, purely for aesthetics. This is technically already functional. Now I'm going to make sure, I just realized that I left that hole in there. Not the end of the world. I can probably cut that away later if needed. But I just want to make sure that I can slide the jaws in here. There we go. Should be able to get a nice secure grip there. When I turn this back over, this tenon is awfully small for the size of bowl that we have here. I would say this is probably a 10-inch bowl and a 2-inch tenon. Those are not the proportions that you typically want, so anything that I do on the inside is going to be slow and steady with nice sharp tools. Okay, so next thing up is I'm going to mount this concentrically again, which means I'm going to use the nice big mortise that I made for myself earlier. That way I can get a good facing cut to sort of clean up some of the portions of the bowl that I won't get a chance to sand or touch up again later. Again, I don't think that I'm going to be allowed to sand at all at this demo. So I'm just trying for nice clean surfaces, which means I'm probably going to touch this gouge up again in a second. There we go. And so I'm expanding into that mortise. Once again, mortise is deeper than the outside of the foot, which means that I have the entire outside of that bowl supporting my mortise, which is good. You don't want it to be just that narrow little foot that you turn on the outside. I saw on Facebook a couple of different times this week, people were in the bowl turning and learning group, and people were trying to use mortises with like Eastern red cedar and stuff like that, and people were blowing out a lot of bowls this week. Touch up a bit here. Cool. Alrighty. So, quick facing cut, because when I start going off center, I'm going to make a bowl, it's going to be something kind of like this, a little bit off center, and I won't get a chance to cut this portion flat, the portion that's not actually becoming the bowl. So this is kind of my last chance to get a good surface. Again, can't sand it, so I'm just going to try to get one really nice push cut going across. Okay, so not bad. That could have been a little bit better maybe, but overall not terrible. I mean, just a couple seconds with some 240 would get that tuned up. Again, can't do it in the demo, so not going to do it here. If you're doing these eccentric bowls at home, the thing that I recommend, especially early on, is pretty much every stage when you get done, go ahead and sand it because you're not sure if you're going to be able to go back and do it under power, right? Like the entire back and outside, I would have sanded this completely by this point right here. Basically, every time you stop an operation, go ahead and sand it. You don't know when you're going to get back to it. Okie doke. So now we get to have a little bit more fun. I'm going to demount here. Lay this bad boy down. Beautiful. I think I got one of those Australian chucks. It opens the wrong way. Anybody else have one of those? Shout out to my buddy Carrie Corney. By the way, if you're following me and you're not following Carrie, you're messing up. Super friendly guy. He and I are cooking something up that we're gonna have. We're gonna put on next week together. We might even get everybody's favorite good old boy Andrew McCarn involved in it at some point too. But we'll have to see how that goes. Okay, so as you can tell, we are now mounted off center. Now we get to make the bowl portion. This is pretty straightforward. Really, I just want to get down deep enough in this bowl that I eliminate both of these, and then from there, it's pretty much all, you know, your personal aesthetic, like whatever you actually want to do, whatever you want this bowl to become. It's up to you. I will say, as a general rule, if you make a really small bowl kind of over here, it's much more difficult to tell that it's actually off center. Right? So if you make a bowl that comes very, very close to one of the edges, you know, to the edge that it's closest to, so on this bowl it'll be this edge right here. If you bring it right up close, it becomes very obvious that like, oh hey, there's a skinny little edge over here and a big fat edge over here. Now reasons you might want to make this kind of bowl, they vary. One, it's just a fun thing to turn, right? It's kicking something off axis, adds a little bit of danger, a little bit of excitement to your night in the shop, which is always fun. Number two, I find that it's a great starting place for carving because you're leaving a whole bunch of extra material. You wind up with a bowl, but you wind up with extra material, but it's not all around, so it's not just like kind of a dumpy dog bowl, if that makes sense. So, time to hollow out the interior here. Sharp tools, slow and steady. Absolutely no need to rush at this point. Especially when you're at home. I have a hard stop at 90 minutes for this demo. You can take 3-4 days to do yours at home if you want. Let's take a quick gander of where we are. So, still not underneath either of those. I do find that it is pretty effective to have a nearly perfectly hemispherical interior bowl here. I think that really weirds people when they see it. I think it's like kind of a maximum visual effect that you can get out of something like this. Start widening this out though. You can tell, like, so this is what I was talking about earlier, right? Small bowl, much more difficult to tell that there's a difference, that this thing is off center, right? Whereas if I expand this out to here, you're going to be able to tell very, very quickly. And then once I have the most of the body of the bowl, then we can start to think about some ways that we can just kind of further tinker a little bit, you know, some extra tricks that we can play on this bad boy. Also, I don't know if you can see through the ghost wood here, but that's about the edge of my bowl, right? That's the maximum that I could make it. Right about there. I've actually used a slightly heavier gouge for a sec. A lot of vibration in this thing, as you might imagine. Let me back you guys off so I have a little bit more room. Sorry, one sec. There we go. Perfect. That's an extremely dull gouge. Heck of it. I'm just going to get a little bit closer here. As you might imagine, something like this gives off a lot of vibration. Unbalanced load. Yeah, you can see getting some shadow marks here. It's often pretty difficult to avoid on these bowls, unfortunately. It's just you have the unbalanced load. It's not resisting the same amount on each side, and then you add in the vibration. I'm using quite a thin gouge here. This is a 3/8. Probably be better off with a 1/2 inch or a 3/4, but all the same, this is generally the effect that we're looking for here, right? Nice and bold and off center. I'm going to sharpen up, take one more pass because it looks like I have a little bit of time in the budget. I'm just going to try to clean that up a little bit. I might up the speed a little bit too, so I'm not just getting the same exact harmonics through the wood. Bouncing my gouge the exact same way every single time. And then we'll start talking about some things that we can do to kind of spice this up again. One more nice pass through here, I think. Let's get it a little bit tighter if we can. Perfect. Sounds good. So we can go a bit faster. That's the way it starts to shake right there. Now we'll just slow this part down a bit. And I've definitely done worse than that before. That's actually pretty good for no sanding. I'm quite happy with that. So that's the surface there. You can see nice and off center. It always gets like a little bit rougher right up near the edge. I mean, this face is never exactly parallel anymore. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Let me get you guys looking at me again. So you could stop here. Like, this is technically a completed eccentric bowl. This is great. You could stop right here if you want. Again, one of the reasons that I love making these for myself is because look at all this extra wood that I get to like carve and do crazy stuff on. By the way, not to self-promote or anything, sweet video dropping tomorrow. I did all kinds of stuff to this bowl's brother. I chopped it up. It's completely unrecognizable, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, lots of room to carve. So the two versions of this bowl, I call this one the uniplanar bowl. I think it's because the two faces run parallel, right? So you get this nice big, broad, smooth area that can be very dramatic if it's a nicely figured wood. Can really show off some burl or something like that. This is also a great canvas for something like pyrography. Like if you have a friend who can draw, get them a wood burning kit, make them a couple of these and do some collabs together. I mean, they go great. You can also make these in sufficient size that you can hold, like salad for two and write something meaningful up here, laser engraving. You just get some extra room back in your bowl, which is kind of fun. Now, one of my favorite things to do is, since I have it gripped on by this tenon, what I'm going to do here, and again, this is another one of those things that is not super advised, but it can be done, which is I'm going to kick it off at an angle here really quickly. Sorry, let me switch my light around and make sure that I have this thing gripped still. Yes, that's right about where I would want it. Cool. So, in addition to being off of the axis on the lathe, the one that runs parallel, now, let me see if I can show you this. Now, it's off axis in, I don't know how you want to talk about X, Y, and Z here, but this face, you might be able to tell, is leaning forward pretty substantially. And so what I'm going to do is cut back across this at an angle. So let's see here. So what I like to do is, since I have all this extra space, I'm basically going to make a facet on it. So because it's sticking out more, I can start to cut this way as it comes by my gouge. So I'm going to show you what I mean. Now, again, safety in your shop is paramount. If it doesn't feel safe, don't do it. This one always feels a little bit silly when I get into it, but I always really like the results. So this is kind of where I spend my danger quotient most years. So here we go. Okay, so you can see the ghost wood here. I can also see ghost wood from the side. So, just a little bit. Just nibbles. Just nibbles. This is what we're going for here. See this extra facet? That's just good, clean fun right there, right? So you can start to see, right? If I were to kick this off axis a couple of different times, I can get a couple of different facets going on here. And so with some planing, let me show you what this looks like from the side. I think this is pretty fun. So yeah, from the side there, that's sort of that facet that we cut. But again, it doesn't go all the way around. How cool. So you can have a ton of fun with this. I mean, this is a way to, keep one bowl on the lathe for hours and hours at a time if you want to. I'm gonna make this one a little bit longer, and then I think I'm actually gonna try 2 different angles and just sort of see what it looks like when they intersect. I haven't played like this with a bowl in a while, so let's have some fun with it, huh? Okay, so I think I can get away with being here. Beautiful. Nice. Okay. A little faster maybe. Got a little dicey there for a second, but overall reasonable shape. Not a great finish here. I mean, I would probably want to hand sand this almost no matter what happened, but yeah, so now we have this kind of funky facet going on here. And you can tell it's also changed the geometry here, right? So this is no longer a circle, right? So this has kind of a point up here and here, which is kind of fun. So let's kick it off facets again. Why stop the party now? So there it would be, and then let's see, yeah, something like that. There we go. Okay. Yeah, let's try it again, see what we get. I did have somebody ask me the other day what would happen if you attempted to cut a bead on one of these as it's traveling around, and I said, you sound pretty brave, let me know what happens. I've tried doing coves before because one of my favorite turners, Christian Burchart, made a couple that have these sort of coves running around these spheres that he makes, and they're gorgeous, but mine don't look like his. He's better, so let's try this. Nice and close already. Let's see what we've done. Okay, see, now I have sort of another cut here, and I'm creating another surface as it goes around. That's pretty interesting. Okay, so I like that surface. I think I'm gonna go one more there, and then I'm gonna flip it again to the opposite side. I'm gonna take a really extreme angle going straight down, so it becomes a little bit more pronounced. Yes, so yeah, this is kind of cool. So as I bring it up here, you can see that there's this secondary ridge line right here, right? So I have, in fact, created a new facet. So I'm going to really change the angle up on this next one. On this next flip. So that was, let's see, which one's my forward piece? Okay, this is forward, so we're going to lean it back the other way. Well, let's just turn it like this. Okay, yeah, I do have that right. Cool. You know, it's difficult to think in 3 dimensions sometimes. By sometimes I mean all the time for me. I know I'm not the only one out there who sometimes has an idea and instead of mapping it out beforehand just goes, let's just try it. Let's see what it looks like. What the heck happens when I get it going there? All right. Give it a spin. There we go. Okay. So that's the part that's coming closest. And yeah, I'm going to see if I can take a bit more of a bite out of it, actually. Ooh, boy, that was close. Okay, so this one gets a little bit more difficult because even though my forward-leaning face is here, there's so much more sticking out over here that this is just going to be what I wind up catching. So what I might actually try to do is lean this one out towards me again and see if I can cut back a little bit more of an extreme angle. There we go. So that's all there. So that would be leaning out here. Right, okay. This is probably the last flip that I'll do. This is mahogany. It's not a super hard wood. At least this batch isn't. I've had some sapele and stuff that'll take anything you can throw at it, but I've really cranked down on this tenon and put it through a lot of stress already. So I think this is going to be the last one on this one, and then I'll show you sort of what we wound up with. But yeah, I'm going to take a bit more of an extreme bite out of this guy. See what we get. Oh, yep, another facet here. It's kind of cool. Well, that's fun. Alrighty. Well, oh, a little bit of tear out there. Let me try to clean that up a bit. Cool, yeah. These sort of intersecting facets here. That's pretty fun. Yeah, that's not as good of a cut. Yeah, all the same. Still pretty fun. So let's bring it in here. So here is sort of what I'm looking at. So you can see I have sort of this first facet off of the edge, right? Perfectly plain face right here, right? And then we get this sort of first facet coming off, and then sort of a secondary facet as it rolls around. And yeah, I don't know. Overall, I think that that's pretty cool. That's just good fun that you can have if you wind up with too much of a piece or too much of a log anyway. This is a fun way that you can just shake it up. Also, one reason that I like to do these bowls occasionally, that I've had only a handful of times, but it looks really good, is if you wind up with a flitch cut piece, so you have, heartwood in one section and a little bit of sapwood bleeding off of the other, it's really effective if you can get all that heartwood into the bowl and then just have sort of the sapwood hanging off on a rim over here. It makes a really, really cool effect. I'm going to catch up on chat here really fast, if nobody minds. What if I don't want my bowl to be eccentric? I want it to be like ice cream and Hyundai Sonatas. Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely something that you can do. Plain Jane right down the middle, I'm hesitant to call it a missionary bowl because honestly, missionary doesn't get nearly enough credit. But yeah, you can do whatever you want with that. So just to sort of close the loop on this, I was looking to get in on this demo under an hour. That puts me at 51 minutes right there, doing a little bit more than I planned to, so I think this demo is going to go just fine. That's the third one that I've done under an hour, so I think I'm in good shape. The other fun thing is for the other turners out there. Again, I didn't do any sanding on this bowl, so let's. I'm just pretty proud of the surface actually, but let's see. Yeah, I think that this gives the biggest indication of what actually happened in this bowl to your fellow turners. So, um, the overall profile is kind of cool. It wound up looking like an eye because we knocked back this edge a little bit, which is really fun. Aside from being a circle within a circle, actually taking away some of that edge gives you a different shape of the bowl overall. So, folks, that is my demonstration for the evening. Thank you very much for being here. Thanks for spending your Thursday with me. Do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe because I have a sweet video that is coming out tomorrow. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss it. It's one of the pieces that I'm most proud of. It starts out as an eccentric bowl like this, and then it goes completely off the rails. There are rotary chisels, rotary tools, cup burrs, if you've never seen those in operation. They're pretty darn sweet. There's India ink, there's gilding, there's a rose engine. It has absolutely everything. So thank you so much for coming on in. I really appreciate everybody spending your Thursday with me, and I'll catch you on the next one.